Am I the asshole for choosing my nephews over my so's kids? I, 28F, bought a house 2 years ago. It's a very spacious place, 4 BD, 3 baths and a big-ass garden, that I've been remodeling and making my own. My fiancé and I have been dating for 4 years. He, 32M, has 2 kids from a previous marriage, 8M and 6F, that are really good kids. On top of that, I have 2 nephews, my sister's kids, that I absolutely adore and love with my full heart, 5M and 3M. Now, my fiancé and I have been talking about moving together for about 1–2 years, but with the purchase and several custody fights he has had with his ex, it has been difficult. He and the kids were supposed to be moving at the end of this year or the beginning of the next, but sadly, my sister and her husband passed away 2 months ago and my nephews were left alone. I knew I'll be asked to take them in, and I was 100% sure that I wanted to because I love them and I wasn't willing to let them go in the system, but I talked to my fiancé first. While he wanted me to take the boys too, he didn't like that he had priority over his kids. Since I currently have 4 bedrooms, 2 kids would have to share and I was against it no matter whom they were because I don't like the idea of cramping small kids in a room. He said it was okay, that my nephews could share a room and his kids could have the other 2. I said hell no. Then he didn't like when I offered for us to move to the basement so all of the kids could have the rooms with the idea of my 5M having my room, because since his boy is oldest, he should have it, and a very few more incident. Ultimately, as selfish as it was, I decided it was my house and I'll do what's best for my nephews, and due to his lack of empathy, we were no longer moving in together and that we could either plan to add 2 or 3 more bedrooms to the house after we marry, or he could go, because my nephews needed me more right now. So I moved them in, decorated their bedrooms as they like and call it a day. I'm still getting texts from him and his family, we haven't broken up, about how I could have make it work, because those kids see me as a mother figure, which is true, and I abandoned them to accommodate my nephews, which is also true, sorta. He called me an asshole, so IDK? Not the asshole red flags all over here. He actually thinks deprioritizing 2 very young kids who just lost their parents is the right way to go. My guess is he will always think his kids should be number 1. Cut him loose. Not the asshole your nephews just lost both parents. Where was your fiancé's empathy and sympathy for the 2 small children who lost both of their tethers to the world? His family is right, you could have made it work if he had been able to get out of his own way. What you offered was absolutely reasonable and entirely workable. Your partner can either graciously take what you offered, or not. But yes, you made it workable. Am I the asshole for not sharing Mew inheritance with my estranged sister? I, 30M, and my sister, 37F, used to be very close as kids. In fact, we were a very tight-knit family. My father used to run a string of convenience stores and my mother was a housewife. We were a traditional Asian family and our parents showered us with love and wicked very hard to ensure we had a good life, but they also were conservative in their attitudes and outlooks on life. So no surprises that this became a huge issue when my parents saw a picture of my then 16-year-old sister kissing another girl on her phone. She was immediately grounded and was forced to break up with her then girlfriend. The fighting and arguments were constant from that point on until my sister graduated and left the house and cut contact with us. This was especially hard for me because even through all the fighting she was really close to me. She used to look after me, help me with homework and even encourage me to talk to girls and go beyond my social circle. I tried contacting her after I got my first phone but it was very brief at first and then disappeared altogether. No phone calls, no texts. Just radio silence. Throughout the years I used to send her updates of my life and even joined a few pride groups at university to advocate for and understand LGBT people as a straight person. I also hoped that sharing this might bring her back into my life, but eventually I accepted that she was gone for good. Throughout this time I blamed my parents for this and resented them for a long time. But we made up when my mother was diagnosed with cancer 6 years ago and she passed away a year later. After my mother's passing, my dad and I became much closer and I started to help more with the stores and investments properties. He had a will drawn up and transferred the stores and properties exclusively to me. He too was getting a lot weaker with years of smoking and the stresses of running a business and the family drama taking its toll on his health. About a month after he passed away, my sister contacted me for the first time in years, hoping to have a chat. I thought she wanted to mend fences now that my parents had passed away, but as soon as we met she mentioned the inheritance and wanted her share. She dodged every question I had about her life and the reason she iced me out with one-word answers and half-hearted replies, quickly getting back to property. So I told her that I was explicitly given everything and she wasn't entitled to anything. She tried to argue that she's being robbed because she's a lesbian and that I'm benefiting from my parents' prejudices, but I wasn't having any of it. I politely asked them to leave and felt terrible for the rest of the day. I asked my friends and they were divided. Some say I was right, but others think it was wrong for me to benefit from my parents' bigotry and should have given her her share. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. While a tricky situation all round, the fact that she ignored you for all these years and only came back for the money makes her an aw. Not the asshole. You tried to contact your sister and keep in touch with her. She decided to be NC with you. She has only re-established contact with you for the money. She doesn't want to know you or stay in your life, even though you have done nothing to shun her. You were there to help with the business and make it successful. You helped while your mom was sick and when your dad passed. You helped build the estate they have passed on to you. You do not need to share it. Am I the asshole for kicking my mother out of my wedding? My late wife passed away 6 years ago. We dated for 4 years and were married for 1 before her passing. My mom loved her as a daughter since I'm her only child, and I guess she never truly recovered. I loved my late wife too. But after meeting and spending time with my current wife, I'm sure she was not the love of my life. My mom has never liked my relationship with my wife, Helena. She thinks I moved on too fast, and refuses to admit that my love for my Helena is bigger and truer than the one I had for my late wife. There's a few instances before the actual wedding when I thought my mom crossed the invisible line, but my wife, wanting to be accepted, let it pass and asked me to no do anything. My mom was constantly talking and comparing the wedding with my first one. We married young and I couldn't afford lots or big things. With Helena, I'm financially stable and I was capable of having a big, beautiful wedding. She asked, several times, if I could invite my late wife's parents to my wedding as an act of love and to tell them I was still there for them, but I refused. I haven't talked to them in years and I have no reason for keeping them in my life. She was very adamant and even Helena said that if I wanted to have them there, then it was okay, but I didn't want to. I felt like my mom had hold on to my previous marriage too hard, refusing to let go and inviting me to do the same. As bad as it sounds, I was done. I want to be with Helena without the burden of always having my ex-in-laws there, watching the life her daughter and I did not have. During the wedding day, my mom actually showed up with them. I asked what they're doing there and they, very ashamed, said that my mother had invited them and they thought it was okay. My mom said they're my family, and I had a duty toward them. I said they could stay for the reception to avoid comments, but that I hadn't invited them and that I was sorry. I looked to my mom and said, "You're not allowed to stay to anything. Leave, we will talk later." She cried and begged, but I asked her again to leave. In the end, the 3 of them left together and my dad, who has been divorced of her for almost 15 years, called me an aw. Judging just on the wedding situation, not the asshole. But you do sound kind of callous speaking about your late wife like that. Almost like it was convenient that she passed so you could move on to find your true love. Both you and your mom need therapy. And you did need to treat your ex-in-laws better. They were unwittingly brought into this situation by your mom and had no idea. Except your poor ex-in-laws. Look, man, you want to act like your first marriage was an unfortunate side adventure on the road to the real love of your life. Neither your mom nor anyone else can stop you. She certainly can't invite people to your wedding without your permission, regardless of who they are. But boy, do I hope you and your late wife didn't have kids you've conveniently neglected to mention, because you don't have to make it this blatantly obvious to the people who do still miss her how little you don't. Am I the asshole for lying to my girlfriend about the pizza I made was gluten-free? My girlfriend, 24 female, works as a model and she has an incredibly strict diet. Virtually she eats as organic and gluten-free, so it makes very difficult to cook for her. We take turns cooking for each other. At first I tried to look on the bright side and appreciate the fact this would get me to eat healthier, but there are only so many times I can eat salads and sushi for dinner. Last week I was at my breaking point and decided to make some homemade pizza. I'm Italian. Now I have made gluten-free versions before, but I find that it tastes gross, so I went with regular white flour. The original plan was for me to eat a bit of pizza while she was out and to make us a couple of Western omelets for dinner, but she came home earlier than expected and caught me pulling the pizza out of the oven. She was so surprised and happy that I made pizza for dinner that I didn't have the heart to tell her that it wasn't gluten-free. A couple days later she figured out that I lied and accused me of being selfish, unsupportive. I tried explaining to her that she's gorgeous just the way she is and that eating regular food now and then won't change that. I also brought up my concerns about her feeling the need to fixate on her diet when she already has 10K plus followers on Instagram. This literally brought her to the verge of tears, because in her mind it makes me unsympathetic to the beauty standards expected of her. Am I the asshole? #EDIT. I did not make my girlfriend sick. She found out because when she was looking for gluten-free flour a couple days later and couldn't find any, she confronted me about the pizza and I confessed. Also, she does not have any medical condition that requires her to avoid gluten. #edit 2. I don't think that a lot of you guys realize that I wasn't trying to deceive her intentionally. The main reason why I said it wasn't gluten-free was because she was excited when she saw the pizza and I didn't want to take that away from her. Also, I see a lot of thirsty people here simping after my girl. It's honestly pretty pathetic. You are the asshole. If you don't eat gluten and then you do, it will give you bowel troubles, even if you're not officially celiac. You made her sick, even if only temporarily. That's not okay. You are the asshole. You lied about something important to her. You are the asshole. Never, ever, ever lie about what goes into food you're offering other people. The proper course of action would have been to tell her the truth, and maybe suggest she have just a half a slice to enjoy the taste, and hold her over until those Western omelets later in the day.